I've flown over 3 million miles around the world and done business in 20 different countries. And all that time, I've worn a yarmulke on my head and tried to be a proud Jew. So what I want to talk about tonight is how to be a proud Jew when encountering other cultures or being within other cultures. And also, in a general sense, how anyone with a strong identity can keep that identity while working with people in other cultures to the mutual benefit of the work being done between them. So I learned the value of being a proud Jew from my father, who grew up at a time in the middle of the 20th century where the highest or very high American value was being part of the melting pot, fitting in. And many Jews changed their name, many Jews refrained from doing things that would make them seem obviously Jewish. But my father kept his name, Stanley Finkel, an obvious Jewish name, and was proud of his Judaism from the time he was at Harvard Business School, through his time as a Navy intelligence officer, and throughout a successful business career. And he always said to me, people respect people who are proud of who they are much more than they respect people who try to be someone who they're not. So I've tried to bring that to the world that I've done business in, and that's led me to davening with talis and tefillin, prayer shawl and phylacteries in the Dubai airport and the Frankfurt airport. That's led me to wear a yarmulke in Munich, in Tokyo, in Paris. That's led me to keep kosher in Japan and in Singapore and in Afghanistan. So, and I believe throughout that time I've been somewhat successful in my business and been able to do that by keeping that strong identity and by learning from people in other cultures. So first thing I want to talk about is a concept called cultural intelligence. So you've all heard about emotional intelligence, the concept that by regulating your emotions, by tuning into the emotions of other people, you can effectively work with them together on whatever you're working on. And this term is now in common parlance. I know that because in November, the day after Eric Adams was elected mayor, first thing he said in his news conference was, I'm going to hire people in my administration who have emotional intelligence, who have high EQ. So, and indeed, throughout American organizations, this is one of the key components, having high EQ that people are looking for to hire and to promote. So cultural intelligence, having a high CQ, is an analogous concept. And it's where universalism meets particularism. Universalism is the concept that by searching for rules and regulations and moral imperatives that can be applied across a society or across a culture, we can get the best results. Particularism searches for what's unique about a society or a culture or an organization and values that uniqueness and that specialness. So how do we reconcile those two concepts? That's cultural intelligence. Let me give a few pointers to help you all try to develop your high CQ, because I believe that characteristic of having high CQ is what organizations will be looking for and what will make you more successful in the world that's become more interconnected and where there's more diversity in the workplace. So first, you need to be proud of who you are. You need to be proud, but not in a sort of condescending way, but in a humble way. And I've had many encounters with other cultures where I could have been offended, I could have been defensive, but the idea is to be like the New York Jets. No offense, no defense. And I've run into this in a number of places, especially in the Far East. I've had encounters usually late at night. We've worked together a long day. Maybe we've gone out and done something socially. And somewhere during that time, on a number of occasions, someone's turned to me and said, what's it like to be a Jew and be able to go to the bank and get the money you need? Or how do Jews get articles in newspapers when they want to get those articles in? And it wasn't done in a derisive way. If anything, it was done in a sort of in awe. But it's an opportunity to educate the person who's asking this in a way of humility, and not to be offended and not to be defensive. So I've used it as an opportunity to talk to people about Judaism, about the history of Jews, about anti-Semitism, and indeed to try to bridge the gap by finding some commonalities and say to them that some aspect of anti-Semitism, or some anti-Semitism, is based on jealousy. We have been successful beyond our numbers. And to say to the people I'm working with, some of that is based on values we have that are very similar to values found in Asian countries. Value of education, family value of hard work, and to use those opportunities to form some kind of bridge with other people. So, so going out with pride, going out not defensive or offensive, important, and to try to find opportunities to do that, encounter people outside your comfort zone, because indeed outside your comfort zone is where much growth occurs. We're in New York City, greatest city in the world, city where I was born. We have multiplicities of ethnic groups, of cultural groups, of people from different countries. Try to find opportunities to work with or spend time with people of other cultures, and be curious about other people. Not again in a humble way, and try to interact with them and learn from that and grow your CQ that way. Do research, read widely about other cultures. Before the first time I went to Korea to do business, I read about Korean culture. I talked to people who'd done business in Korea. This was 20 or so years ago, and one of the things I learned was that because of Korea's Confucian background, there was high respect for the elders. And because of that, in large Korean organizations, that the seniority tends to be lockstep with age. So when I went to Korea and was doing business with some of the large chaebols there, Hyundai, LG, Lucky Gold Star, I was able to navigate those paths better and understand who I was dealing with, how decisions were being made, and be able to negotiate effectively. Thankfully, Korean culture has evolved from there, and there are many younger people now in more senior positions in Korea, but that's another thing to realize, that cultures generally are not static, they're generally dynamic, and you need to understand cultures as they evolve. So how do we understand other cultures? How do we, without stereotyping other cultures? I had this conversation a couple of months ago with a group of Sims MBA students, one of whom happened to be black, one of whom happened to be Asians. And they were struggling with the concept of how to understand other cultures without stereotyping them, because you can generalize and unfairly other people. So let me suggest one way to approach it, which is when you're working with someone or interacting with someone from another culture, are you seeing them as a part of a whole, or are you seeing them as an individual who happens to have some attributes of the whole? Indeed, we're all products of our upbringing. We're all products of the surroundings that we're in. But each of us has our own unique qualities that make us unique. So when you're working with other people, yes, many people from a given culture background eat the same food, dress similarly, but there are more differences than similarities. And going the other way, there are more similarities between you and them that you need to tap into. So I'd like to highlight 3 Jewish values of the many, many I could, which have been informative to me and maybe relate some of the experiences I've had in these. And that's Mikatena Olam, perfecting the world, Hakarat Tov, gratitude, and Kiddush Hashem, bringing honor to God through our actions. So let me start with the first, Mikatena Olam. God told many things to Abraham, but one of the things he said to him was Nivar. It's one more. slide. There we go. Nivrachu b'cha kol mishpachot ha'adamah. That through you the world will be made holy. And indeed, one of our responsibilities as Jews is to be a light unto nations. None of this has been easy for us. We brought the value of freedom to the world through our slavery. We brought the value of treating the stranger well by being strangers ourselves. We brought the value of having a homeland by being homeless ourselves. So none of this is easy, but we're still invaded upon by God to be a light unto nations, to repair the world, to take the broken world, at least broken since the Garden of Eden, and play our part in creation by doing what we can to repair it. There's a spiritual level to this as well that I just want to touch on, and quote from the Rav, Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, in one of his Shuva drashas, where he talked about the fact that on our holiest day, on Yom Kippur, leading up to the holiest time of that day, we read from the book of Jonah. And in that book, a Jew, Jonah, is commanded to go out and preach to and try to get to repent the people of Nineveh, a Gentile city, emphasizing at this time in our calendar, this most holy time of our calendar, our responsibilities to the world. And indeed, it goes the other way as well, in that at this time where we're thinking about repentance, on the day of repentance, we see that the Gentile people of Nineveh did repent, thus inspiring us to repent on Yom Kippur. So just I could talk about a few incidents in my life where I've tried to live up to this value. I've spent time on an Indian reservation in Utah setting up programming for children. But let me just focus on Afghanistan for a second. So I had an opportunity in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011 to do economic development work in Afghanistan. I guess to some people one of my skills is scaling, and this was an effort to try to scale the economy of Afghanistan quickly on the theory that if people have something to lose, they're less likely to cause trouble. So, long story, won't go into all the details, just highlight a couple of things. First of all, the thought of going to Afghanistan was not an easy decision, right? There was a war going on over there. And I have a wife, I have 6 children, and it was I struggled mightily with whether I should go and risk my life or not. I thought it would help reassure my wife Chava that the government was giving me $1 million life insurance policy for going, but that actually did just the opposite of reassuring her for that. But this value did inform my decision that I did have a responsibility. I did want to go to meetings with other donor countries with a yarmulke on and be and do my part as a proud Jew to help improve the lots of others. And just to focus on one aspect of it, you don't want to be an Afghan woman who does not have a husband, brother, or father providing for them. You're going to become destitute. You're going to end up begging on the street. So we set up programs for Afghan women to train them how to raise chickens, raise turkeys, do beekeeping, and even to this day, there are thousands of Afghan women who have that ability to make a living, who have that pride, who can provide for their family because of what we did there. So please take those opportunities when you can to engage with people outside of the Jewish community and help perfect the world. Let me talk about Hakarat HaTov, gratitude. A few years ago, I was talking to a close friend of mine who's a rabbi in Lakewood, New Jersey. He has a child with cerebral palsy. I have a nephew who has Down syndrome, and we were reflecting on just how grateful we were for the institutions that have helped them, camps, day programs. And we decided to set up a charity to benefit special needs children. How are we going to fund this program? Me being an entrepreneur, I'm trying to think of a commercial product or a commercial model where we can fund this and be self-sustaining. And I came up with the idea of a charity gift card. So it works like a regular gift card, Macy's, Starbucks, but instead of using it to buy clothes at Macy's or coffee at Starbucks, the recipient can take the balance on the card, go to our website, select among what's now 2,500 charities, and donate the money to that charity. So if they designate, and we take a portion for ourselves. So if they designate $100 to Metropolitan Museum or Susan G. Komen breast cancer, we send them $90 and keep $10 to benefit special needs children. And all along while we're running this, we're informed by Jewish values. We now have 2,500 different charities on our website, but each of them have been vetted and run by rabbinical authority to make sure that their values align with Jewish values. And thank God this has been successful way beyond our dreams. In 2021, we sold over $2 million of these cards, not only benefiting special children's needs organizations, but in a sense elevating some amount of American gift giving to perhaps a more noble cause than a necktie or a sweater. Bringing honor to the world and being a Kiddush Hashem, I just want to talk personally about this a little bit and just relate that when I wear a yarmulke on my head, I'm always feeling like it's incumbent on me to act in a way consistent with the values that God gave the Jewish people. For some reason, this seems to occur more to me in airports than other places and on airplanes. I think it's because we frequent travelers are very we know the rules, we know what needs to get done, and we tend to get a little annoyed with people who are infrequent travelers. So I try to overcome that and let people use the overhead compartments or whatever it is to be considerate to other people. Sometimes this backfires. I was traveling to the West Coast a couple of years ago. I saw there was a husband and wife. They were seated in separate seats, offered to change seats with them. The husband was very grateful, so I sat uncomfortably for 6 hours. But as I was leaving the plane, the woman comes up to me and whispers in my ear, "Thanks for nothing. The last thing I wanted to do was sit next to my husband for 6 hours." So we try. So again, as representatives of the Jewish people, as representatives of those who have been given a message by God, try to act in that godly way to bring honor and glory to God. And then the last thing I wanted to do was talk a little bit about upholding your values in the workplace and as you travel. I get a lot of questions from students, especially seniors, who are going out into the work world about how do you act as a Orthodox Jew in the workplace? How do you deal with Shabbos? How do you deal with kashrut? So just a couple of reflections on that. First, kashrut, New York City, not so hard. Other parts of the world, a little harder, a lot easier than it used to be. You can get kosher food in most places. Tuna fish now comes in handy packable packets. But in most cultures, serving food, breaking bread, as they say, is a way of showing your hospitality, is a way of showing commonality. So how do you deal with that if you're saying no to that? So just a couple of points on that. One is use as an opportunity to educate what's kashrut about. Maybe you go to chukim, maybe you don't go that far, but you can educate them on, maybe not, you can't have or do everything in this world. Maybe there's some things that should be forbidden from one, and maybe for you it's different, but this is what it is for me. Maybe use a little bit of humor. They say, why can't you eat that? And I'll say, it's like kryptonite to me. It weakens my powers, right? But try to find other social activities you can do with people on business after work. Try to find other things you can do with them. And in terms of keeping Shabbos, in my travels, I've always tried to be home for Shabbos, but inevitably 2 or 3 Shabbos a year I've ended up in Singapore or Paris or Kansas City. But you can have delightful and unexpected encounters with other people and try to take advantage of that. in terms of working within organizations, how do you work with other people who look at you like you're leaving on Friday afternoon? Try to work hard to show them that you are pulling your weight. Offer to cover for them when they have non-work obligations. This is something that most of my doctor friends end up doing on Christmas. I always try to work on Christmas just because I don't want to double dip. And if you have to stop in the middle of a transaction on a Friday afternoon, get right back on it on Saturday night and show that you're carrying your weight. I do have one non-Jewish friend who I worked with a few years ago, and he always either calls me or sends me an email on the Friday afternoon nearest the summer solstice, and the content is usually something like, Finkel, I sure the hell hope you're working now because I know you were taken off in December on Friday afternoon. So try to be fair, work a little more in the summers, and by all means carry the Jewish value of being ethical. It's important to do what you say what you do, and don't do anything that you wouldn't want to have written about on the front page of the newspaper. So that's a little tour about being proud either as a Jew or really any other identity that one holds strongly, learning about other cultures, interacting with other cultures, developing a high CQ, being able to work with people who are different from you towards a common goal and being successful in reaching that common goal. Thank you.